Thank you. Thank you. Aloha kako. My name is Wendy Gibson. I'm a nurse. I work with the Drug Policy Forum of Hawaii and also the Medical Cannabis Coalition. I've been a nurse for them for a few years. I've been working in the healthcare field for over 30 years. Cannabis is one of the best medicines I've ever seen. And if you were here for the last speech, Senator Espero and Representative Bellotti pointed out some really important bills that we're going to be working on this session. So the more voices, the better. I'd really like to encourage you to participate in the legislative process because that's the only way that anything happens here in Hawaii. And we've got some of the most outdated drug laws in the world. This is actually a very exciting time to be involved in drug policy, and you've probably seen pretty much every day in the news there's something happening, not just in Hawaii but every state and all across the world. There's medical marijuana legislation. There's 40 states now that have some sort of medical marijuana law in the United States. Just in the United States we have 23, that noise is hard on me. Yes, yeah, thank you. 23 states plus Washington, D.C. that have really solid medical marijuana programs, and then there's another 14 states or so that have just very limited programs with CBD only style, which is really not the best, but at least they have something, which is more than nothing. It's estimated that they're serving about 2 million patients across the United States, and they're about, the physicians are recommending cannabis for more than 50,000 medical conditions. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is just explaining how the medical marijuana program works in Hawaii, and then give you a chance to ask some questions too. So I'll explain this pretty quickly and just how the process works. And then please feel free to come up and ask questions here or come to our booth afterwards and I'll try to answer your questions. So the Americans for Safe Access produces a report card for medical marijuana programs, and last year our grade was a D. We didn't do too well. However, this year the report cards came out and we went up to a B. So I'll tell you how we got there. Thank you. Part of the reason that we were upgraded was because of the work of the Drug Policy Forum and the Medical Cannabis Coalition, which are groups that I work for. The Drug Policy Forum works broadly on updating our really seriously outdated drug policies of all kinds, and the Medical Cannabis Coalition, who works on just medical cannabis issues. I'm a cannabis nurse. I'm a medical marijuana patient advocate. I'm an activist, and I'm so happy to be working for both Drug Policy Forum of Hawaii and Medical Cannabis Coalition because they're basing their laws on science and compassion, and that's the way I want to go. So a quick note on the terminology. First of all, cannabis is the proper term to use when you're talking about the medicine. If you're talking about marijuana, you're talking about a derogatory term, a racially charged slang term that came about in the 1930s. But it is a term that we're still using today just because when we got our medical marijuana program in 2000, it was called the Medical Marijuana Program. So that's, whenever I refer to the Medical Marijuana Program, think cannabis, or if I say cannabis, I'm using it interchangeably only because it was originally named that. So this is a publication that the Drug Policy Forum gives out free of charge to all the doctors in the state and anybody who wants it. It's a guide for physicians, it's a guide for patients and their caregivers. You can find it online at the Medical Cannabis Coalition's website, and it's still the old version because we were so successful at changing some laws, passing some bills last year. This is now outdated. So you can still go look at it online, but please keep in mind that it is outdated, and we will be coming up with a newer version of it. If you'd like us to send you a link to that or get the hard copy, sign up for it at our booth and we'll get you one. So just a little bit of history about how the medical marijuana program came into being at all. Like I said, everything is done through legislation, so that was no exception. So back in the year 2000, the Drug Policy Forum helped pass the legislation to get the marijuana program here. So we now have more than 13,000 patients who now have permission to grow their medicine. So the missing piece of that was that we had no dispensaries. Patients were allowed to grow their own medicine. The law remained silent on how they were supposed to get their seeds or their plants because, well, that's still illegal. So anyway, last year we were able to pass the dispensary bill and put that missing piece into place. We had huge support, huge amount of support from the people of Hawaii. 78% supported dispensaries. This is in 2013. And also medical marijuana program. Just a lot of people understand the therapeutic uses of it, but we still had no dispensaries to help our patients until last year. There's 3 basic steps that you need to go through if you want to become a medical cannabis patient in Hawaii. So the first one is that you first of all have to be a patient with a qualifying condition, and I'll show you a list of those. You also have to find a qualified physician, not necessarily just an MD, but a doctor who is willing to make the recommendations and meets the qualifications. Then once you do that, then you fill out a bunch of paperwork with the Department of Health, and that's done online. And then the Department of Health issues the patient the card, which then makes you eligible to grow your own plants, or when the dispensaries open, then you'll be eligible to buy from the dispensaries. So right now, as it stands, the patients can grow 7 plants and have 4 ounces of usable product. Turns out growing it yourself really isn't so easy. I just learned how to do that myself a couple years ago, and I don't think I would be successful at doing it. You do have an option of getting a caregiver to do that for you if you're unable to grow, and there are many, many reasons why patients end up just buying it on the black market anyway to try to get the strains that they need. So the good news though is that dispensaries are coming soon, probably by the end of the year. So to get your card, you first have to be a patient with a qualifying condition. This is a list of the conditions. I can read them to you. You can read them yourself as well. It includes cancer, and that's not to cure cancer. It is patients with cancer who are undergoing cancer treatments. The same for the HIV positive status. So it's not to cure you, it's to help with the symptoms or as an adjunct to the therapies that you are already having. So it also includes severe weakness, malnutrition, wasting syndrome, severe weight loss, any chronic or debilitating disease, which includes seizure disorders. You may have seen the series of movies that Dr. Gupta put together called Weed, which shows how the children are really benefiting from using cannabis for seizure disorders. And we also have some families here on Oahu who are showing us exactly the same thing. Children who have tried and failed every other seizure disorder medication and finding that cannabis is the only thing that controls their seizures. It's also for severe pain, severe nausea, severe and persistent muscle spasms, A lot of the research right now is showing really great promise with multiple sclerosis and also Crohn's disease. Oh, and last year, as part of the dispensary bill, we added post-traumatic stress disorder. Yay! We're pretty happy about that. There is an option to add more qualifying conditions. You have to go through a process through the Department of Health and petition them, which means then you also have to show them all the research that shows that cannabis is useful for treating that condition. So it's a bit of a challenge. I welcome anybody who wants to try to help make those changes. I would like to see some of these that I've listed here included. Especially opiate addiction, because cannabis is being used as an exit drug from people who are addicted to opiates, which is what is killing everybody. So if we can get more people off of the opiates and manage their pains with cannabis, then I'm all for it, and I would really like to see that included on our list. So you're a qualified patient. So then you need to go to a physician, a qualified physician. And that's any MD or DO with a current Hawaii license in good standing that also has controlled substance prescribing privileges through the DEA. And hopefully you'll find one who's well versed in using cannabis as medicine, which, as we're finding out, not many doctors in Hawaii know that much about it. So we're also putting together an educational effort to try to get our doctors educated. I've put together my own program to help educate other nurses, and I welcome anybody who wants me to come give a presentation to a group of healthcare workers to sign up for that at our booth as well. So finding a physician might be a tricky thing to do. So any doctor who is a qualifying doctor, the ones I just mentioned, can make the recommendations, but many of the doctors will not. They do all have a First Amendment right to talk to you about that, to discuss the pros and cons of using cannabis as medicine, and the court case at the bottom is cited if you need that information. But many are hesitant because they're not trained in the use of it. They're only comfortable if they can prescribe something, a pill that's a 5 milligram, and they can send you home with that, something that they know about. They're very uncomfortable with herbal medicine. They don't understand how it works. So they're very concerned about causing more harm than good. And so they're also, some of the doctors are very worried about increasing government scrutiny of them. And there's still a huge stigma attached as well. So some physicians work for groups that have policies. They form policies against making the recommendations. And unfortunately, many of the hospitals and HMOs such as Kaiser and military facilities do have this policy in place. And that's in direct violation of the doctor's First Amendment rights, but we haven't pointed that out to them. So we're not really sure why they have these policies. We really would like to know more about why they do. We think it's possibly attached to the federal funding. It could just be the stigma, and it could just be because it's just the way that they handle the insurance for paying for the appointments, because your appointment will not be covered by insurance. So the patient begins the process by going to the Department of Health's website and filling out their part of the form. It's extremely important that you are letter perfect in filling this out, because they will reject it if you make any mistakes. So you also need to provide contact information in case you do make a mistake. They can contact you and you can get that fixed, because this is not the role of the physician and their staff. And right now what's happening is the doctors are getting burdened with that, because in order to sign up for this program, you have to log on And you have to give them an email address and phone number. And many patients don't have email addresses, so they make up something. And so if there's any error in your application, it's going to get rejected. The Department of Health, if they can't get a hold of you, they're going to get a hold of the doctor, and that's just absolutely not fair. That is not the role of the doctors. So make it easy on your doctor, and just make sure that you fill it out properly. If you need help, ask for it. There's a really good video on YouTube that walks you through the process step by step. We have all this information for you at our booth. If you want to get that information, come on over. So this is the website address, but we'll give that to you also. So first step, you create it. When you submit this, you also have to state which doctor that you're going to use. So finding the doctor can be a little bit tricky too. And we can help you with that. Please contact. What I can do is, if you email me and request a list of doctors, I'll send you a list of doctors who have agreed to let us give you their contact information. We can't endorse one doctor over another, but we can sure give you the information. So the other tricky part of this is that they require a photo ID, because you have to be a Hawaii resident for this. So you can use your cell phone, take a picture of it, send it to your email, and then download it onto their electronic site. There's also a question about whether or not they could maybe handle that part in the doctor's office with some sort of signature card and that kind of thing. So anyway, you do need to have that. And then all the payments are made online as well, so you'll probably need to have a credit card or some way to pay online. But you do need a computer for this process. So then you go to your doctor, and the doctor may or may not make the recommendation. The doctor is not obligated to do that just because you have a qualifying condition. The doctor has to weigh out whether or not the benefit of using it is going to outweigh any risks to you. They also have to establish a bona fide doctor-patient relationship, which includes an examination. So they'll be gathering your medical history and any medical records that you have. Would be great. So the Department of Health doesn't consider telemedicine to be a valid way of examining a patient. And they also don't consider the doctors doing examinations at concerts or expositions like this one to be creating a bona fide doctor-patient relationship, and that's why we weren't able to have a doctor here today to do that, because it's not considered a valid examination of a patient. So then you go to the patient and then the physician, and then the physician fills out their portion of the paperwork, which is also online. So a doctor has a right to make this recommendation. However, they can't assist the patient with getting your medicine. It's still considered to be illegal to buy or sell it. So as a healthcare professional, I can't help patients get their medicine, because I would be aiding and abetting in a crime. So I'm so thrilled that we passed the dispensary bill, because now patients will know that they can go to a place where the products are tested and labeled. They'll know what medicine that they're getting. And I can also help the patients use their medicine, give them advice on what they should be using, perhaps. So then the patient also has some rights to access the medicine, and like I said earlier, that the law is silent on where you're supposed to go to get those things. The patient also has some responsibilities. You need to make the payment in order to get your card, and the Department of Health will send you your card, hopefully within 3 to 5 business days, and then you're qualified to begin growing, or once the dispensary is open, you'll be able to buy. You also have to tag your plants, and what the tag has to have on it is your identification, your ID number from your card, and also when that card expires. And then you're also responsible to make sure that your card gets renewed so that the cards are good for a year. Patient also needs to respect all of Hawaii's smoking laws, and you also need to keep in mind that this is a medicine, and like any medicine, you need to keep it out of reach of children. And also, you also need to keep in mind that while it is now legal for you to use it within the state of Hawaii, that doesn't mean that it's legal on a federal level. So if you commit any federal crimes, you have no protection. You can't say, I'm a medical marijuana patient in Hawaii. You can't use that as a legal defense if it's a federal crime. So how did we get from a grade D to a grade B? That was pretty much because of our medical marijuana dispensary bill that passed last year. That was the missing piece of our puzzle. It was called House Bill 321, which is now Act 241. This was created, it took a long time actually for us to come up with all of the pieces and parts that went into this bill. We had a dispensary task force to make recommendations, which became the bill. So the task force was responsible for doing a lot of research. They had to research what was going to be the appropriate number and location for these dispensaries, and design for the tax structure, and what kinds of restrictions, what kinds of methods to ensure safety of the supply, what kind of a framework for cultivating and manufacturing, and some regulations to ensure proper security and public safety. We're especially concerned about diversion. We don't want anybody who's not supposed to have this medicine to get it. And then we also had to look at potential federal interferences. So we looked at, the Drug Policy Forum was part of this task force. So we looked at what was happening all across the rest of the states that already have medical marijuana programs with dispensaries, to see what was working for them and what wasn't, and what we could avoid. So what we came up with, now the dispensaries are going to be handled by a different division of the Department of Health than handles the medical marijuana cards. So the Harm Reduction Services branch handles the cards, and the Office of Healthcare Assurance, these are the people who oversee assisted living facilities and home care. So they do inspections. So they'll be handling the dispensary's licenses as well as their inspections. They came up with a set of interim rules which our legislators talked about a little bit earlier. Some of the rules we think are good, some of them we would really like to see change. Just a few of those. No greenhouses, we think that should be allowed. It said no smokable products in our dispensaries. We feel that is the whole purpose of having a dispensary. It's a perfectly acceptable method of using medicine, so we should have that. And there are just a few other concerning limitations that we're going to be addressing during this legislative session, so I urge you all to please voice your concerns, sign up for our newsletter, and we'll send out action alerts to let you know when these bills are coming up for hearings and what you can do to help us either pass a bill or get rid of it. So if you want to see what happened with these interim rules, and you can go to Olelo and check it out. It's a 2-hour-long presentation, but we talked a lot about the rules and how we would like to see them changed. So how many dispensaries are we going to get, and where are they going to be? There's going to be 8 licenses issued. That means there can be up to 16 dispensaries, 16 grow sites, and 16 manufacturing facilities. So 6 of those dispensaries can go on Oahu, 4 of those on the Big Island of Hawaii, 4 go to Maui County, and 2 on Kauai. So here's the time frames. We've already passed 2 of those. So January 11th, the applications for the dispensary licenses went up, and they were available and being collected from the 12th through the 29th. And they're going to have a panel to review these. They're going to announce the winners on April 15th, and that's when the growers can start growing, which is not too soon before the dispensaries are supposed to open on July 15th. There's still some challenges that our patients are facing. Need to be aware that they can still be facing discriminations at work, at school, and even at home if they live in federal housing. And also, still in the community, there's still a stigma involved. And some people are very judgmental about who they think is a legitimate patient and who's not, and their opinion truly does not matter, but unfortunately, yeah, it's there. So we did pass another bill last session to help provide some more protections for patients. Up until last year, they were not eligible for organ transplants. They were very limited in their rights in schools, and also with child custody issues, and also for in-housing. So we made some improvements in all of those areas. We still have a ways to go. We originally had a bill that supplied some protections at work, because medical marijuana patients can still be fired from their jobs for a single positive drug test. And so we tried to make that a little bit better for medical marijuana patients, and that part of the bill got completely stripped out, and we would like to make another go of it and try to help provide some protections for patients at work. So we made some revisions to the housing statutes, but definitely still needs to be expanded. So please, if you have any questions, ask them now, or come by our booth. We're only here till 5, but you can also contact us by email. Just grab some of our information, and either contact us through the Medical Cannabis Coalition, and that's pretty much it. So any questions? Come on right up. Thank you. Hi. Go for it. Aloha. A question's for children. The keikis, yeah.
A lot of times there are a lot of adults now, generation older than me, that they're not too computer savvy.
Yes.
Signing up for an application is very important.
Yes.
Is there ongoing improvement to sign up?
We would like to have people, some advocates who would help people who are not computer savvy with the process. We don't have that in place right now. If you'd like to volunteer for that, love to have all the help we can get. Anybody who, IT people, to get involved with that. We do have problems because of that. On the more remote areas of some islands, people just don't have computers, or they don't know how to use them. And so the Department of Health is allowing a paper process, but it's a much slower process because they're only able to process it when they have time outside of this other program. So we were trying to figure out how to help these patients, and the best we could come up with was we need to get a group of volunteers who can help out the patients. So yeah, we need to form some sort of networking for them if we can.
Another issue that I wanted to bring up is the main reason for all of this is the legitimate.
Yes.
I went to the airport not too long ago, and they had this little girl, and she had some sort of cancer. It's called
Can everyone hear what he's saying? Okay, good.
and the parents had marijuana.
Okay, so the parents were transporting it on a plane with.
This is something about egg stop. You know, they did a little scan, body scan, and I guess it said that it was separate from the sleep. So they took that away. She was going off island.
Okay.
To another island.
Yeah, you're not allowed to transport it by plane or by boat. You're traveling into federal territory. You're.
There, she was going on another island. It was the only thing to see that between person and another dispensary.
Well, one of the bills that you could all help us with is a transportation bill. We're trying to give patients the rights to travel with it from island to island. Because in Oregon, where they've legalized it, they've made exceptions to the rule where people can fly intrastate and bring their medicine with them if they're going to different parts of the state. And we're saying, look, we have the same thing. We're a state, only we're just sort of separated by islands. So, yeah, we think patients who come in from outer island to get their chemotherapy shouldn't have to leave their medicine at home. So, yeah.
I have another question. Some of the roads, right now the issue is there's a lot of people who baptize legally buy blue cards, and they're buying them in a lot of issues, and they're getting the seeds actually.
They're getting what off the street?
They're going to want seeds.
Oh, seeds.
When the dispensaries come, do they also be able to sell seeds?
We don't know if the dispensaries are going to stock seeds and plants. We're encouraging them to do so to help patients who do want to grow their own. And because we also anticipate that the patients are going to need many, many different strains because different strains are good for different conditions. And so if the dispensary doesn't sell the type that the patient needs, then we're hopeful that they'll supply them with the seeds. But patients are allowed to transfer medicine between themselves too, so patients can share seeds.
My question is, will the dispensary be able to sell seeds?
I believe the dispensaries are allowed to. I'd have to check on that. You could check the law and the interim rules too, but I don't think there's anything prohibiting them from doing it.
I have another question.
Sure. No, I'm glad. Ask away.
The taxes that come in from the dispensaries, are the people allowed to ask where this money can be? Because I know that in Colorado, the people who were needing to buy the marijuana from the dispensaries, they wanted to put it into the schools.
I think some of the tax money is earmarked to go towards educational programs, but not necessarily schools. So, not clear. Okay, you're welcome. Thanks for the questions. Hi. Hello.
Thank you for everything. I have a question about caregiving. A lot of people work away. What I read said you're allowed to enroll 7 for yourself.
Yes.
7 caretaker for someone else.
Yes.
And it's 1 car per resident. A lot of people in Hawaii, you have a lot of people living in the same residence. So we have 15 people. I know that's exaggerating, but how many is it? 1 car per resident, or is it per name on the lease, or?
My understanding is that you can have multiple card holders on the same property. So
They don't even have to be on the lease, like we can be caretaking for, like, let's say, obviously there's a lot of comments about it. You know, your employee has land, and can he caretake for multiple people, or?
I'm not really clear where, it's blurry lines
Yeah.
on how many, can be allowed. I'm not sure there's any set number. Yeah, and you know, some people who are testing out these waters are finding that it's not working well. So, yeah. Wait, do you have a question? Come. Hi.
I wanted to say, okay, they give you one, they give you a card, okay, yourself, and you trust yourself, so somebody has to get one other person. So, one person on the card, one person on the card, not two others.
Right, one caregiver per patient. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not one, you know, not
Okay.
consider that there I know this is stuff about the green house.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to have a specific about the specific amount of plants or the greenhouse, the dimensions of the greenhouse, or the dimensions or
For are the dispensaries the number of plants that they can have? They can have up to 3,000 plants. Mhm.
so if it's just a normal person, okay, let's say they apply for the license, who do they apply? Who do they apply to get the license?
The Department of Health has accepted the applications up until the 29th of this month.
They've already chosen.
No, they have not chosen them. They're going to have a panel to choose them, and I'm not sure they've even finished putting the panel together.
Okay, and then when they have to have something that's that everybody, they get on like sit, listen to their discussion.
No, because of the accelerated timelines on this, there's not going to be public input to it. They're going to not announce even who has applied for it until probably until they've chosen the people, which is going to be announced in April.
So it's like taxation without representation,
Well,
or we have to trust the people that we voted in to say, stand up for us.
Well, we're trusting that the Department of Health, you know, is going to act in our best interest, and they're going to. We suggested that they bring in people on the panel from out of state, so nobody who has an interest in it. Yeah. So we don't know who they've chosen yet. Sure.
I further mentioned something about possibly moving to caregivers in 2018.
That is part of the bill.
So, you know the reason behind that, and whether or not that's likely to go through, or what?
I'm not sure the exact reason for it. I know that some other states have had problems with caregivers taking advantage of patients, and as well as the designation of being a caregiver to traffic in drugs. So I think it came out of a fear that that was going to happen here.
Drug policy for this?
We're opposed to it. No, we want to maintain caregiver privileges. Yeah. Hi.
I just wanted to know if there's anything in the future for island of Molokai.
In the future for what?
The island of Molokai.
There's going to be special provisions for every island that doesn't get a dispensary. I'm not sure what those are, but you know, we're talking about maybe having the possibility of a mobile dispensary or something, like someone to come visit. We're not sure yet. Exactly. So until we can get the inter-island transport issue resolved, then yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you put the mic up? Yeah, thanks.
I heard you say when the dispensaries are open, they're not having smokable products like flowers, so then they're only having edibles in, or you guys?
No edibles. It's going to be tinctures, oils. They will have buds. They will have flowers. So their own rules are sort of conflicting with their own rules. They're saying no smokable product, but they will be dispensing smokable buds. So, yeah. It's because of all the horrible things that the tobacco industry has done. And they have to take a stance against smoking. So I argued that they want warning labels on the product that says smoking is hazardous to your health. In all my years in working in pharmacies, I have never seen a warning label on a medication that says your medicine is harmful, is going to be harmful to you. So I suggested that they say may be harmful, but most of the research is showing that not only does it not injure your lungs outside of the heat, the smoke, the irritation, which can lead to bronchitis. But it doesn't cause lung cancer, it doesn't cause emphysema, and it may actually have a protective effect against lung cancer. So I told them, absolutely, this is not an accurate labeling of your product. But we're hopeful that we can change that through legislation to include smokable product.
And I also have one more question. I think
Sure.
it's in the year 2018, I've heard right now that they're in Oregon and they're having problems with like renewing their license and stuff. You said that we try to make it to where there's no there because of the recreational, they put such a high tax on it. They're going to try to actually make people forced to grow for recreational because they're going to get more money. The state is going to get more money.
There's a lot of problems when you go from medical to full legalization. The medical marijuana patients tend to suffer because of that. Yeah, and Oregon is a good example of what's happening.
It's working with like the candy care thing, so it's where they actually give out free marijuana to people that are cancer patients. And I've got a friend and family who are vegetarian, so they can't like technically afford it. It's like you got a thing where they give it away for free, people that want it, and now they have to step in on that also, and then kind of basically what it sounds like because of recreational. I thought it was going to be a different thing, but it sounds like it.
Yeah, sure.
Ending up to be like a kind of bad thing for the medical patients.
Well, I'm hopeful that we can work it out so that we can have both, that people can, still get their medicine and that people who want it legalized can also have that. I don't see why we can't figure out a way to make it work. Okay, aloha.
I think any questions that you're...
Yeah, sure. Any more questions? Head over there, please.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.